Welcome back. I know it's been a minute, but we've been hard at work. We've been doing things, we've been setting things up. We have more things that are in store, but we have an exciting episode today. So before we get into all of that, first of all, you know the reminders. Hit that subscribe button, like, share, give us comments, give us reviews. It helps us bring more stuff like this to you. If this is your first time, my name is Gary J. Nix, and across from me, still kind of to my left, as always, we have
Amber Chenevert, global strategist and friend and colleague of Gary J. Nix.
Yes, and we have a guest today. 2 episodes with guests in a row. Sound like fun. But today, we have someone who we're going to have a very interesting conversation about community with. And today I bring to you Stephanie Eaddy. Thank you for coming here. And give us a little bit more of an introduction of yourself.
Me too. Thank you both so much for having me here. Yes, I'm Stephanie Eaddy, and I lead cultural marketing at the Coca-Cola Company. And it's been a really great place to work, but even more than that, it's been really exciting work to do in the space of culture and celebrating culture. And this idea of community really comes up a lot across our brand. So thank you both for having me here today. Excited to get into it with you guys, talk about our work.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. You know, when back in a few years ago, when Amber asked me if I want to work on something, I was like, what do you mean, do I want to? I've been wanting to work with you. Like I've already told you this. Why are you asking me? Just tell me when, where, like what's happening here? And then, you know, we started talking about it, and I ended up coming down to, we all came out to Atlanta to start working on some insights. It was like, okay, this is fun. I'm still mad at myself that I can't find the picture I took in the office, because when I'm at large brands, I like to take pictures of the sayings that they have on their walls, because one, it must be pretty important to have on the wall, and it must be very meaningful. And as a very brand forward person, I always like to, whenever necessary, remind the people inside of how the brand came to be, you know, as a large global
140-year-old
brand. Right. And as humans, we sometimes forget what got us there. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying I had to deal with other people, so I just like to have the proof. But when the opportunity to even talk about this as a project came about, it was like, once again, when, where? We'll figure out the how and everything else. So I have a tendency to ramble and go off on tangents, so I'm going to stop now. And, you know, get us into our first segment that gets us into the meat of what we're talking about, which is called Rising Above the Noise. And usually, because Amber is so smart and good at what she does, she's the one who I throw to for the introduction of this subject.
I just appreciate you being my hype man in this way. Like, makes me feel so smart. So as Gary mentioned, we had the privilege of working on the American Dreams Insight Project on behalf of the Coca-Cola Company. And it was a really wonderful experience for us to dive into the big question that Coke was asking us at the time, which is, how has American culture changed over the last 30 years or so? And then how has Gen Z responded to that? And we were specifically interested in Gen Z more broadly, but we were also interested in Hispanic and Latin Gen Z, Black Gen Z, LGBTQI plus Gen Z. And we all said the entire time, one person can hold all of those identities. But because of how research is collected, particularly in syndicated data, we wanted to make sure that we could call that out separately and also in an integrated manner if it made sense. But one of the things that we learned from the research is the value of real community, particularly from Gen Z. And seeing online community as real community, as online friends that can turn into real friends. Diving into real food and where does my food come from? Where do I come from? What's my history, my family, my culture, the religion that I either subscribe to or that I remix, you know? And then just like getting away from keeping up with appearances for appearances' sake. We know that this population was significantly impacted in their early years by the pandemic and having so much of their fundamental experiences and development online, right? And so there's this desire as they get older to kind of break out of that. And how do we get back connected? I know we've heard some, we've seen a lot of interest in like 90s nostalgia. There was something I think that's appealing to them about folks coming together offline in real relationship. And so when we think about the tension, because that's one of the things we like to dive into, the tension we want to unpack is that we know Gen Z has a real desire for depth and community where brands often still want to skate on the surface. So, there's speed and efficiency related to that. But like, how do brands actually meet them where they are?
No, that's exactly what it is, and I think um, this would be a great time for you to kind of just jump in and talk more about how the Coca-Cola Company looks at it and how it affects your work or what it is that you bring exactly to the Coca-Cola
Yeah.
Company.
No, it's really interesting because this notion of community, particularly as it's expressed through a lot of online communities,
Mhm.
has been the subject of a lot of conversation lately, and it's actually part of the way that we are rethinking how we create social content
Mhm.
and the role in which social plays. So we've built a community and culture budget that supports our social conversation and our social engagement so that we have the opportunity to react when we need to, when things are happening in real time,
Mhm.
with things that are, again, aligned to that particular brand or community. But so that we're also celebrating, supporting, and engaging in conversation that matters.
Mm.
And so, one of the things that I talk to internally across my teams, because I support all of our brands
Mhm.
in this space, is oftentimes very insight led through the work that we did together through American Dreams or through other syndicated sources that we see, and really help to the brand teams to really understand like what role does your brand play
Mhm.
in the consumers' lives right now, and what value are you going to bring to the conversation? Because let's be honest, there are some conversations that are not safe for our brands to enter into and aren't warranted.
Mhm.
And so it is, important for us to be respectful of the communities in which we're trying to be part of. And so we always try to look at what is the value exchange that we're offering here. So that's a big part of our the way that we're approaching social right now. But some of the insights that came out of the work, like this idea of wanting to reconnect with your culture or
Mhm.
reconnect with your language.
Mhm.
If language is a big part of your culture, means that we need to be thinking about how our content shows up, how we're engaging, how we're creating differentiated and even de-averaged experiences. Meaning that we are a company of scale. We're
Mhm.
Coca-Cola. It's a
Mhm.
global company.
Yeah.
We love scale, but we are also appreciating the nuances and the differences that are also required for us to connect deeply and emotionally.
Mhm.
Because your experience with Coca-Cola and your experience, Gary, with Coca-Cola, and my experience, while there are probably things that are shared, there's also things that are quite unique. And so that is what I think, as a marketer, is really exciting and keeps the space fresh because that challenge and the answer to that challenge keeps evolving, and being able to be able to think through the evolution of what our future drinkers, the Gen Zs, are going to need from us as a brand is what allows us to continue to evolve. So it's a really dope time to be in marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like a lot of what you said really spoke to me. When I talk about what I do, because I tend to get thrown into the brand box because I lead with brand so heavily, but I also say that I'm a marketer by trade, a strategist by design, and I understand why brand is so important. And obviously, the vast majority, if not everyone, which I'm going to just predict that everyone has heard of Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
One of the things I like you said the most was figuring out, I'm paraphrasing, but figuring out how Coca-Cola fits into the cultures and not
Yeah.
just like kind of trying to take it over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like that's not only refreshing to hear, um, but also the right way to look at it, because it's about serving the people who consume your product.
100%. I mean, as we stated earlier, it's a 140-year-old brand, just that one, right? We have many, many others within our portfolio. Sprite, for example, which we can totally talk about Sprite. But to stay this big, this long, to be this relevant still today
Mhm.
in conversation, requires that brands, again, be respectful and be value driving, and I think one of the beautiful things about Coca-Cola is its DNA and the fact that it is a brand of happiness and optimism, but it's also a brand that for a long time has created opportunity for a multicultural and diverse community to come and participate with the brand.
Mhm.
And there's lots of different examples of where we've seen Coca-Cola be the first to feature a woman in its advertising
Mhm.
back in the early 1900s, the first to, put black and white people together in an ad.
Mhm.
The first. And so there's lots of examples of that. And when we think about Hilltop, the very famous ad of "I like to teach the world to sing,"
Mhm.
it's a gift to be able to have that kind of DNA as a brand
Mhm.
to look back on and therefore make decisions. So when we want to be brave or when we want to do something, we just kind of go back to our archives and we get re-inspired every time at some of the gifts that the people before us have been able to do as marketers.
So speaking of archives, I was curious about, as Coca-Cola has grown into a global brand with connection and relationship all over the world, from the smallest community to the biggest cities, what has Coca-Cola learned from engaging those global communities that they've brought back to the US?
Yeah, we have a process from a marketing perspective that we call global charters. And a lot of that is where we bring brands together across different business units or operating units. And we start with what are the human insights that are universal?
Mm-hmm.
Gathering, celebrations, things of that sort. And so when we write creative briefs, when we talk about the problems that we're trying to solve, they often start from a place of what's universal right now, what's the universal problem to solve, and also grounding it back into the DNA of the brand. What is the universal truth of that brand, and then the expression of it and the way in which we actually build the outputs that our systems then use. What you see actually on TV and retails or on social media goes through a process of adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work with a lot of different really smart creators that help us to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
But not only just by market or maybe by a demographic, but also by interest or passions, and then also by the contact or context rather, and touch point.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing on social media is going to look and feel a little bit different than maybe what you're seeing on television during the Olympics, let's say, or maybe during FIFA World Cup this summer, to maybe what you're seeing on a digital engagement through your mobile phone
Mm-hmm.
or inside of a game, for example. And that is all done by design as a way for us to ensure that when we're connecting with someone, that connection is as authentic as it can be,
Mm-hmm.
that it is relevant, and that we're driving resonance with that person. Again, for many humans,
Mm-hmm.
connection, happiness, joy, celebration, those are all going to be universal. But what food you bring at the table, when you do that celebrating, whether it's in the morning, in the evening, at certain times of year, those things vary. And that's where I think we have the most fun to offer some more creative juice, if you will, to it. But then we also do a really good job to stay networked. So what's happening, let's say in parts of South Asia around Diwali celebrations, for example, we ingest and we think about, okay, how do we help create that same excitement and energy here for our South Asian consumers who understand that culture or who have a connection to it. And I think that's one of the beauties of being a large, globally scaled company
Mhm.
is we have the benefit of working in a networked way.
Mhm. Cool.
Yeah. So I just want to take not to go off on a tangent, but I do want to point out what you were talking about, how some people might hear tactics, but every tactic that you mentioned is underpinned by something that has a lot more depth.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
and I want
a
to,
lot of insights.
right,
Mhm.
We spend a lot of time in the space of insights and understanding our consumers and our space and our category. That's first and foremost for us.
right. And you continue to bring up the word connection, connectivity, as you should. If we can, let's talk a little bit more about like the depth that is necessary for community, because at times community becomes a buzzword,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like
As does culture.
yeah,
Oh.
don't even get me started on that one. But I feel like with technology becoming more top of mind again, community is where we get the understanding and the feelings of belonging. So, if you just talk a little bit more about how what you're doing helps underpin all of that stuff to create work that actually works.
So, within our organization, we have what we call cultural marketing brilliant basics. And within that, it's about being intentional about who we're talking to, knowing who they are, and then connecting with them in the most appropriate ways. So in terms of like what we're doing with community, I can give you some examples just within the FIFA World Cup right now
Mhm.
as it's building to all of these tremendous games that are going to happen across 16 markets in the United States alone, but also in Canada and Mexico. So one of the things that we build, again, a little bit of going back to my value point, is we just recently launched a partnership with the Panini organization. So Panini is a awesome Italian-based company that helps you to create trading cards. So
Mhm.
for the U.S., it's very similar or akin to a baseball card.
Mhm.
They do this for their football players or soccer players. And right now, you can collect hundreds of stickers to capture every single player that's going to show up during the FIFA World Cup series and all of the countries within that. So whether you're excited about Barcelona or you're excited about Mexican national team, you're going to be able to go and find those players by purchasing these cards. But Coca-Cola has 12 individual players you can only get under the label of a Coca-Cola bottle.
Mm.
And that creates a tremendous amount of excitement and conversation and this idea of community. But to go one step further is we try to create opportunities for these Panini traders to come together during our FIFA in-market experiences. So we go out in market, we create fan zones, we create space for people to come together and celebrate and meet one another who are like-minded. And we wrap that experience in what we call an only Coke can do way, which is, oftentimes with special guests, special access, exclusive things that we bring to the table again as a way to show authentically we understand you, we understand what this community is excited about, the collectability, the fanatic, the fandom, right? And so we lean into fandom and we try to create the best experiences that we can through the access that we have through these partners. So we do that at scale across a number of different campaigns every year, across a number of different brands. And so if it's Sprite, we're doing different programs to connect through basketball. We just recently announced a partnership with the NBA. So that means we're going to have unprecedented access and community and responsibility, right? Responsibility with fans of the NBA to show up and support and bring content and bring value to those drinkers and to the fans of Sprite brand. So that's a big part of how we are putting our brand in the context of the lifestyle of that community and offering, what I would say are things of value intentionally.
I'm curious, given the impact of fandom and the big business of influencers.
Yeah.
How does that, working with influencers, how does that begin to inform even insights, but then also that relationship you have with them to support the creative and support the marketing efforts?
Yeah, a really great example of how we have listened to a community and responded, I would say, is with our Diet Coke beverage. Diet Coke has had like the biggest resurgence and like cultural comeback of any brand, I would say, in the last 5 years in our portfolio. And that's because the Diet Coke fan is unwavering and ultimately like super committed and loyal to the brand. And it's been great to watch because those communities on their own just started organically talking about their love for a Diet Coke. And if you've seen it and you know what I'm talking about, you've got fans who will have different ways of receiving the Diet Coke in a vessel, a paper cup from one quick serve restaurant to the can to the 20-ounce bottle. And this person, blindfolded, could tell you what vessel that Diet Coke comes out of. If that's not fandom and love and adoration for a brand, I don't know what else is. But it's also a community. And so how we talk to them really needs to be guided by how they want us to engage. So this isn't a community where we need to come real over the top hard with our messaging. Instead, what we want to do is allow them to talk on our behalf. And so the brand team and our social team in partnership with our agency did a really smart thing. They went out to this young lady who was already fangirling for Diet Coke. Every morning she'd get up and show people her special ice maker that she bought that would create the right ratio of bubbles and ice and crispness to the Diet Coke, right? Her line. Wow. And we gave her the keys to the voice of the brand and said, come and be a partner with us. Come and lead this conversation, this dialogue. And so she knows Gen Z. She knows what they want. She used terms like frig cigarette, which I think some brands would shy away from and say, I don't want to be associated with that. But we recognize that that's the colloquialism. That's the language. That's the way in which people were showing their adoration for the brand. That's culture. And that has been not only really fun to watch and be part of, but I think it's been a nice blueprint for us, for other brands, to be able to, again, serve the community in that way. And so there's ways in which we serve the community, which are, again, marketing programs and fun and those sorts of things. But then we also have a huge legacy as an organization of investing in things that impact and go all the way down to the local level, whether it's Boys and Girls Club or whether it's working with, Thurgood Marshall and so many others, right? So many others partners that I think it's when those things come together and we allow organic conversation being led by the community. And we also show up with receipts down at the grassroots level. Again, I think those are the things that help us to maintain our 140-year relevance as an organization.
Yeah. I mean, the point about someone being able to tell the difference, I just want to give a quick shout out to McDonald's Sprite, just because that is absolutely a thing.
I think like McDonald's anything is
but the Sprite,
kind of a thing.
But the Sprite especially, like that is just like
crispy, like back of the throat. I know.
It does all the things.
If you know, you know.
It is electric.
It is electric.
As it should be.
Sir.
But also, and I think you kind of answered a question that we had already a little bit, but if there's anything more you can say, or you can kind of give emerging strategists an idea on how to deal with those tensions around organic language and the issues that the brand safety teams might feel about those things or the worry they might have?
I mean, those things always come up.
Mhm.
It's a daily or weekly thing where we're sort of juxtaposed between what one might think is brand risky and one might say is brand appropriate.
Mhm.
So those conversations are good, healthy conversations. I love those conversations because that means everybody in the room is really committed to this brand, and truly want to like care for it. So we don't shy away from those. But without giving you too many details, I'll give you a specific example that just recently came up, and that was where a particular brand wanted to lean into a culturally celebrated moment,
Mhm.
and there were sort of two approaches. One was leaning in and kind of commercializing or socializing some representative elements of this moment and saying, oh, well, everyone is sort of doing it. Like we should kind of get into that conversation. And the way that we were sort of coaching or suggesting was perhaps learn a little bit more about what this occasion is, and then ensure we are, again, appropriately participating in the conversation.
Mhm.
So there's a couple things, strategists that, would encourage us to think about. Like, number one, does your brand have a history in this moment or in this occasion?
Mhm. And tell people what history is, because sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we
did
just
2
hit it.
years ago.
Couple,
Right.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I would say like greater than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would ask is, okay, in that history, what role have you played? What have you done? What have you communicated? Maybe how deep have you gone? Because the insights that we did together told us that consumers want to work with and want to purchase from brands and businesses who help communicate and educate culture, who help celebrate things. Many of us have a very big cultural burden to tell and explain people about ourselves.
Yes.
And so wouldn't it be nice if another brand could take some of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Cultural tax off of our shoulders. So educating, informing, celebrating, and making it known that you understand what that moment is and what the importance and history is very important for authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth thing I would say is like, ask yourself why. Like, why does my brand need to be here?
Mm-hmm.
And if really every answer you come back to is because it'll help drive sales, wrong answer. We can drive sales a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Cultural appropriation should never be one of them.
Yes.
And so it's really important. There's another brand within our portfolio wants to celebrate the same occasion. They brought a cultural anthropologist
Mm-hmm.
into the building for a 1.5 day long session. They brought in 25 different examples of brands who had engaged in this space.
Mm-hmm.
We studied it. We learned from it. We dialogued. And we're putting in the time because this particular brand is going for the first time to enter the conversation. And so they want to make sure they're doing it appropriately, respectfully.
That makes me so happy because I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Come back to that
That's
later.
great.
So, yes, these conversations happen all the time. And again, I think that they're good to have because it demonstrates people have a love for the brand. But don't shy away from them. And I would say we have to stay humble as marketers, as brand managers, to be open to the feedback. And I would say, like, make sure that your table is filled with people
Mm-hmm.
who understand firsthand either the celebratory moment you're trying to connect with, the people, the consumers that you're trying to reach, or the passions, right, that you're trying to do. Like, don't have me at the table for soccer. I'm not your girl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But have somebody at the table
Mm-hmm.
who knows something about soccer so you don't look foolish, right? And that's how we try to structure our teams. And whether it's within our own teams in-house or it's with our agency partners, I think we continue to do a good job and continue to push ourselves to say, okay, wait, Do we have the right person around the table who can represent this voice? If we don't, let's phone a friend. Phone a friend, guys. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that so much because, and if I have to edit this out, I will do so. So I'm just kind of clipping it here for myself.
Okay.
I really like the fact that you communicated the difference between being appropriate and appropriation, because there's a lot of companies that do not know the difference.
Yeah.
And then also just the fact that you're not afraid to have these conversations. I think that there's an idea sometimes around neutrality, or just like, which is more around safety than being fair.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you have to have these conversations so that you can actually get to the right answer.
Yeah.
But I don't want to monopolize this, and I feel like you probably have a question or a comment.
Well, if I could just put a little cherry on your point, which is to say, 2 weeks ago, I hold an internal podcast called Culture Cafe once a month. And a couple of weeks ago in Culture Cafe, we talked about cultural appreciation versus appropriation, and really understanding the nuance between the two. So I think it is a conversation that should be had more often and continuously, because culture shifts. And we need to make sure that our brands and our team members who are helping support of those brands stay up to date with where the conversation is.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you're interested, we'll send you our episode.
That would be amazing.
Like,
I would love that.
Appreciation versus
I would love
appropriation.
that. And I'll share it out to all the marketers.
Oh, we did a whole episode
That's great.
with that title, actually.
Excellent.
But I was just gonna say that there's a couple of points that I wanted to make that I think that's important in an environment like Coca-Cola, but then also even in smaller companies or smaller businesses that are coming up. You could see an opportunity in the marketplace and think, oh, I have to do this now.
Yeah, I have to jump on that.
I have to jump on that. And that's where we can make a mistake. What I appreciated about the conversation you were having about this particular cultural celebration is that there was time spent actually learning and understanding. And that's the best way to really understand what is your brand's place, as you discussed before. What voice do you take on versus what you maybe pass to an influencer to lead from a conversation perspective?
There's nothing in the rule book that says you cannot work with an influencer or a highly credible expert to help communicate your message. And I think that at Coke and across our brand, Sprite in particular, we do a really good job of allowing the culture or the community to be that voice, to be that expert. And I would encourage more brands to do that. Because you know what else you're doing is you're feeding a stakeholder, an expert, a creator with the opportunity to raise their visibility. Help raise their visibility. I think there's nothing more special and frankly fulfilling in my role than being able to say, oh, man, I was able to help that person have just a few more views, likes, a larger stage, higher presence, or sometimes just the flowers for what they're already doing to hold up their community.
And that lends itself to authenticity in that now it's not just about whatever your visibility is as a brand. It becomes about what is the investment that you're making in the culture, in the community, in the people that hold it up.
Consistently.
Okay, talk about that.
That's the other C word. We talk about culture a lot, but also consistency matters. Are you just here are you just here for the vibes this month, like you were saying? Or are you going to keep being here, even when sometimes the vibes are a little low? And I think that's where brands really can differentiate themselves from being, with the community and being with culture versus, kind of, I don't want to go so far as to say exploiting it, but definitely using it for when it feels the safest.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get to the vibes, because we are.
we're almost there. Officially.
We're almost there.
Almost, yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, with Coca-Cola being a global company, and you all being based in Atlanta,
Mhm.
what are the ways in which people who work at Coca-Cola, that they're able to see themselves in
Oh,
the work,
yeah.
even if they're not a part of that particular community or culture, just because when people see the humanity around something, it connects them differently, and then they see the work differently,
Yeah.
and they want to invest differently. So I wonder if there's ways that Coca-Cola helps people immerse, if you will.
Yeah, so just making sure that I understand the question, meaning across hours, like employee base. How do we
Right.
get the employees? Because, I'm in marketing, but not everybody's in marketing, right? We have a lot of smart people in a lot of spaces. There's lots of ways that we do that. So internally, we have tools to share workout and get people excited. There's a lot of sharing right now around FIFA World Cup and America 250 and some of our other, March Madness, big programs. So we'll leverage our physical office location for physical events like we'll use our outdoor space out back to host celebrations. We bring leaders out to talk about things. We bring the people who have done the work to come out and talk about things. There's a lot of T-shirts that are made at the company. I could make a huge quilt of T-shirts. Different ways to galvanize people around an idea. We have town hall meetings that are by department, but are generally open to anyone. So, like, if you're really interested in what's happening in the finance team, go to their town hall and you can listen in, and vice versa. And then we'll have like all hands meetings as well. Sometimes once or twice a year, where again, we're really bringing a lot of people together to galvanize. The reality is, again, even though I'm in marketing, getting something from an idea to execution requires many hands across the board. And so oftentimes we do have very large, integrated, functionally distinct people that work on our business and get to do it. But at the end of the day, too, the people who are in the building are our consumers also.
Yeah.
They're also our shoppers. They're also have families and drinkers and friends. So we do get feedback. We get feedback. But then we also, like, the work that I do, which again sits more closely around culture and what I would say are where most of our growth is coming from, which are these more multicultural groups, all the ones you talked about, right, are intersectional youth, if you will. We do have employee resource groups, and I use them all the time. I'll send work to them and say, what do you think? Is this hitting? How does this feel authentically to you? What's missing? How could we make this better? What are we not considering as ways to do that? So I would say, in short, there's lots of ways.
Got it.
And because, again, most of our employees are also drinkers of beverages, and for that we have a lot. We do get to hear from them quite often on what's working or not working.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So one more, like a half a step back. Because I feel like there's more room for a little bit more detail, not secret sauce, but detail.
Okay, yeah, because I can't reveal this yet.
Of course. And it's going to take us back a little bit to, I feel like, the American Dreams Insights Project as well. So there's an ongoing battle, I feel, between the difference and the conflation of culture and trend. So where do you find the balance between the two? Because, we kind of just already talked a little bit about jumping on something.
Yeah.
But should we?
Yeah.
Like, where's that delineation point? Because I feel like that's one of the things that just messes up a lot of brands, to either do the wrong thing or just get frozen.
Yeah. The frozen part is real. The frozen part is real. It's hard out there right now. Cancel culture and all the things, right? And again, as you said, we're living in a global world. So you do something small in one place, it's going to be seen. We don't always get it right. I'm sure there's times where we don't get it right. But every brand is a little bit different. And so that means every brand might have a little, like, their line might be drawn a little bit differently than the other. So, for Coca-Cola, we're optimistic, happy, uplifting brand. We're not going to lean into trends that are negative. We're not going to lean into things that are, harmful or any of those things. That's not for us. So those are very easy places where we can stay out of. We are going to lean into joyful moments, things that are fun, dance moves, things of that sort, acts of kindness. I would say, again, Sprite's a little edgier. So Sprite might go a little bit in a different, maybe zig when we zag. And that's okay too. I think at the end of the day, we have to evaluate as marketers and as brand owners, is this a harmful trend? Is there harm in this? Is it coming from a place of celebration and joy? Or is it coming from a place that could be really distasteful or harmful? And at the end of the day, we're not like a trend company, right? We're a beverage company. So does this make sense? These are like the same questions, right? Does this make sense for us? Are we adding value here? And I would also say, like, will we be proud of this engagement 3 months from now or 6 months from now?
And I want to just say that, to your earlier point, it also goes back to knowing who you are as a brand.
Absolutely.
There's there's certain things that I, as Amber Chenevert, as my brand, I'm not going to wade into because that's none of my business.
That's none of my business.
And I feel like brands have that space as well to say, this is what we stand for, as you discussed, this is what we believe in. And anything that's a trend that we might even tap into has to be aligned to those foundational values.
100%. There's just so much to lose. I would say there's more to lose than there is to gain in the trend hunting. But if you're a younger brand, maybe you're more edgy, the people that you are seeking to gain loyalty from are edgier, do you? But you just have to be prepared for when it doesn't work in your favor, and then how are you going to respond? Because what I'll tell you is, like, winning trust is a slow and steady progression. Losing trust can happen overnight. And in this particular world that we're in now, where we have things like deep fake and AI and lots of consumer-generated content and honestly opinions, and a little seedling of a whisper of a thing can turn into somebody's reality really fast. That's where I think we have to go back to, what do consumers know, or what do people know about us as our brand? What's our history tell us about your brand? And that's where consistency matters. So if you've, again, been consistently there, when something like this happens where somebody might question, why'd you do that? Or did you do that? You can go back to your history. And I hope that people would say, for our company, no, they have consistently been who they are. And so this must not be true, or this doesn't feel like it's aligned to who they are.
Right. I think that's also something that companies tend to either forget or just get worried about. I even take it back to when there was the argument of relationship building, like, can brands actually build relationships? And it seemed to be framed around the idea as like, well, you can't have the same relationship with two people that you can with a brand and a person. It's like, but who said that was the same thing? Like, let's go back just to the definition of the word relationship. And talk about the connection that's actually happening, each side knowing who the other side is, and feeling positively about those things. I'm not going to go on my dictionary tirade either, but it's just I try to keep it back. I've been trying to keep it back my entire life, but it just keeps creeping back up on me. But I think the thing is, like, there is this, we kind of introduced the idea of vibes. And I feel like you almost answered the question. Like, this is a great interview. It was also interesting because it was like, you knew what we were going to ask you before we even sat down at the table.
How'd that happen?
And maybe part of it is because we all at different times worked on a project where we were trying to figure this stuff out.
Yes.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Work in this space. That's right.
But okay, just one bonus question that I hope we can keep, because I don't think it's controversial. But some people think I'm ridiculous when I say things like this. I usually use a different shoe company as my example.
Okay.
But I have this thought that every single company, no matter what size it is, can become the quote unquote next Coca-Cola in terms of how you became this huge global, known by everyone company.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that for people who are at smaller companies, not the competitors, but people just trying to make their way
Yeah.
in this wild industry we call marketing, advertising, and communications?
Look, I think consumer taste, particularly around beverages, has shown us that there is room for every type of beverage and taste and experience out there. There have been categories that have been created not by us, and we're the biggest, right? That we've even woken up and been like, wow, where did that category come from? Who knew? Um, yeah, I think there's definitely space for brands and businesses to be built when they are building because there is a consumer need
Mm.
and they are reacting to what a consumer wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are consistent and you are connecting with that consumer, people will believe in your brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the wonderful thing about what social media has brought to us and online communities and the internet has been that people will advocate for you and they will champion you and they will, help your brand grow without you even having to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we got to social media influencers, right? That's how
Mhm.
we got to this idea of community marketing now. That is what has been really powerful for direct to consumer brands and some of the others that advertise and do their marketing in different ways and have different go to market strategies. But I have once heard, I don't know if this is true. I once heard that there's 3 universal words in the world that everybody knows, like hello or hi, God, and Coca-Cola.
Mm.
So if you can be bigger than hi and God, let's talk.
I would drop the mic, but these are not mine, so I
No,
don't want to pay
I
the
don't want to
bill.
pay either.
Right.
But
Listen, that was my one little flex for today.
Okay, we got it.
hey, I don't think that's anything more can be said. I think it's time to let
I
that sit.
think we're good. Yeah.
Came in just sledgehammers. Boom. Okay, cool.
No, we got
I
it.
will say, I will drop one more thing for you. You started this conversation talking about the time that you were in a building and you wished you could find the photo of a quote you saw. And there was one that Robert Woodruff, who was for 60 years, he was part of the leadership of the Coca-Cola Company, either as CEO or as the chairman. So very important person in our company's history. Was quoted as saying that man can do anything as long as he doesn't care who gets the credit.
Mhm.
And so maybe it's brands can do anything as long as they don't care who gets the credit now. As we think about communities,
Mhm.
we think about where culture takes brands and businesses. But that has always been for me a quote that I have tried to live up to, but have found very inspirational when walking the building. So when you're in the room and you're working on the thing and it's getting tense or it's getting tough, just trying to center back on that, I think is a really helpful way for teams to work together, try to get to the next level.
Low key, I was hoping that you said the brand that was, the saying that was on the wall, but this one is better.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
What
make
did you
sure.
have on the wall.
I'm trying to remember it. It's I know the spirit of the quote. I
Yeah.
just because I like to be so
It's
accurate.
it was right on the wall with the it's like of the original bottle,
Yeah.
but broken up on the wall. And it was bringing you back to the foundation.
I know the wall of which you speak, but I cannot think of the quote.
Yeah, the spirit of it was basically about connectivity, bringing people together. It was
Yeah.
basically it was definitely around the tenets of
Yeah.
of the Coca-Cola brand.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think that people forget or they treat as if it actually doesn't make you money. And I hope that we actually proved that with everything that Stephanie said, who works at this company that actually has one of the 3 most globally known words or terms will be able to convince you that the stuff that we talk about that does not show up directly on the ledger sheet actually adds to the ledger sheet on the side that you wanted to add to. But I'm back.
Yeah.
It was that type of thing. And I'm like, I've always been like, we forget about these things. Like, part of the methodology that I use is there are these elements of every brand has to acknowledge or understand about itself
Yes.
before it can communicate.
Yeah.
And approximately half of those are emotional. The other half are intentional. Are intellectual. And the emotional ones are the ones that actually matter slightly more because people buy
people, yes.
and people. So
Yes, you're right.
and because of that, we cannot minimize those things that we either have a hard time measuring or are not able to measure at this point, as if it doesn't matter to the things that we want to measure. So
We also said that about digital marketing when it was in its nascent time. People had to go on leaps. I was a digital marketer when I first entered, baby Stephanie, when I first entered the working sphere post college, and there were a lot of things we couldn't measure. We didn't know if it worked. It was a little bit of like hope and a prayer. And isn't it P&G leader who famously said like 50% of marketing works, 50% doesn't? We just don't know which. I think we've come a long way.
Oh, absolutely.
But the point that I'm trying to make is keep trying, keep measuring, keep asking for measurement, because it will come.
Yeah.
It will come. Yeah.
And keep it human.
And keep it human.
Yes.
Because the humans are buying.
I was going to say,
and they're going to tell you how they feel too.
They are. One of our tenants, I would say from like the early 2000s, marketing at Coca-Cola was described as the Coca-Cola way of marketing was described as like a DNA helix, double helix, where part of it was art and part of it was science. And I do think that some CPGs are very science driven, like very innovation led, very much like this product is now 10 times more effective than this other product. And we still lean into storytelling, the art. And again, I think it goes back to who we are and the connections that happen over meals, over beverages, over shared moments. And that I think also helps us to live in that quote that I will go and find for you, take a photo of and send.
Yes.
So you can share with your audience.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you guys for the work that you did. This research that was done is literally the gift that keeps on giving. We used it to inform our holiday ad last year that featured a Hispanic and Latino family, and it had all of this work richness that came out of it. And we used it in our NCAA March Madness work in 2024 to create this idea of a school fight song. Anyway, it's a gift that keeps giving. So the richness and abundance of that work and how we layer it in to what we're doing, I want you guys to know has been meaningful.
Thank you.
Great to hear.
It was a labor of love.
Yeah, it was. It was something we had a lot of fun doing also. Like it just fit in just the stuff that we like doing. And it is definitely one of the projects of which I'm most proud in my career that it's now somehow spanned over 4 decades.
Amazing.
So thank you once again. And thank everyone who's listening, watching, for being here with us. Please, once again, subscribe, like, share, comment, review, do all the things, because we are here for y'all. Part of our purpose is to share information. We're not trying to gatekeep information. We're just trying to figure out a way to gatekeep bad actors. But, we have high hopes here. So for myself, our guest Stephanie, and Amber, thank you. We will see you soon.